Hello everyone, I'm your host Joel Bryce, and welcome back to another episode of Delta Waterfowl's The Voice of the Duck Hunter podcast. Today's podcast is a discussion that I recorded from my office this past October with Sean Weaver and Ryan Callaghan of MeatEater Incorporated. Sean and Ryan were in North Dakota videoing an episode for their upcoming waterfowl show called Duck Lore that will be airing on MeatEater's YouTube channel in 2022. Like many of our listeners, Sean and Ryan took a keen interest in Delta's Hen House program, so they asked Delta's very own Matt Chouinard, often called Mr. Hen House, to join them on their hunt. Sean and Ryan actually installed 2 Delta Hen Houses in a nearby wetland during their stay. During our podcast discussion, we covered topics ranging from Sean and Ryan's early introductions to waterfowl hunting, to hunting dogs, to the actual duck, goose, and crane hunts they experienced while in North Dakota. We wrapped up the podcast with my favorite part of our discussion, duck trivia. We had a friendly little contest to see who knew more about waterfowl biology. Thanks for listening in, and we hope you enjoyed the discussion. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Welcome to Bismarck and world headquarters for Delta Waterfowl.
Happy to be back in Bismarck. I've always liked coming here. There's always a lot of birds here.
Yeah? Ryan, you been here before?
Driven through.
Yep,
this is the most time I've spent here by far and away.
Well, that's good. Bismarck is not my home area. I'm originally from Wisconsin, but I think I'm quickly approaching that point in time where I've lived here longer than I lived, where I'm originally from.
Right.
So it's becoming where I'm from at, very fast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to like about the area, I've found out.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys both look a little bit tired. Probably a little bit cold after today. So it's been raining all day long.
The core temperature's coming back up.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm on the kind of like you described where you're from and where you've been from. I'm on the good side of that equation right now.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I can take a while on a cold. It's mid-October, rainy day. You guys have been out hunting. Would you believe me that I said this was one of the worst droughts on record here in North Dakota?
Oh, that was a big talking point before we showed up, is like this 1.5 year long drought that's been going on was just ruthless. And I was starting to wonder if, how are we even going to do pothole hunts? Because there's none of the shallow wetlands left. But
yeah, no, it's been amazingly dry. So try on this statistic: the North Dakota Game and Fish Department, in addition to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Canadian Wildlife Service, they annually do breeding duck surveys and wetland condition surveys. COVID shut down the federal surveys, but North Dakota kept doing their own survey. They measured an 80% decline in wetland conditions from this year to last year in North Dakota. I mean, that's just amazing. Snow-free winter, which is kind of nice when you live here. But if you like ducks, a snow-free winter and then just no rainfall all summer long, it just doesn't add up to great duck production.
Oh, absolutely. And then, so what was the 2020 year as far as what were your conditions?
Yeah, not tremendous conditions either.
Okay.
What North Dakota's experienced for many years in a row is abnormally wet conditions. If you end up in that...
So you weren't 80% less of 150% average. You were
right.
80% less of 70% or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, no, okay. It wasn't. It didn't go from... Great question. It didn't go from the peak to something 80% less. It came from normal, average,
Well, your guys' last big moisture was a snowstorm 2 years ago, right now.
Yeah,
right?
It's been difficult. Yeah, if you live here, you learn that not all snow, not all moisture is created equal.
Right.
We've had years where October, November, December just slammed with snow. January, it's all melted, all gone. And so there's really no value to wetland recharge for that type of a pattern. And so for me, if I design the perfect winter, it's just maybe a foot of snow, maybe 2 feet of snow all winter long, snowshoe hunting, just get out there and it's okay to live in, then get dumped on in
brutal
March,
April.
That just sets it, because those are going right into those basins and it sets up good duck production.
And when you say basins, you're talking about kind of these big glacial sinks, right?
Yeah,
so it stores a lot of water for a long time.
Yeah, well, you're looking at the prairie pothole region, right? And so that's a glacial. It's a result of a glacier that was here centuries ago, right? And when the glacier melted or retreated, it left, let's call them icebergs, scattered across the prairies, right? And so there's this flat ground with boulders that created depressions, and all those depressions then hold water. And so you get into a good spot in North Dakota, South Dakota, Canadian prairies, wetlands as far as the eye can see, and they're shallow. They're small and shallow and productive. And that's what makes this area just amazing for breeding waterfowl. In contrast to something like the Midwest with ponds, deep marshes, not as productive, and you just don't have the number of pairs like we have here.
That's North Dakota specifically. It stretches through so much of the state. South Dakota, you could have a lot narrower band, too, of those beautiful wetlands.
You do, absolutely. Hey, so I want everyone to get to know, so I think most everybody's familiar with the MeatEater brand. I do want people to just get a quick update. Ryan, what's your role at MeatEater?
Director of Conservation.
Okay.
Right, so that's a pretty simple title.
Yeah.
And then I host Cal's Week in Review, which is try to make it as short as possible. Kind of roundup of conservation news and ideally some what you need to know and hopefully act on as far as what's happening in the political space that you should be aware of as a hunter, angler, outdoors person.
Okay. Do you have a regional emphasis, or is it just you try to cover the spectrum of the United States?
Try to cover national with some hyper-local highlights.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, Director of Conservation, that was your same title at First Light, right?
Yep, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you like that?
Boy, it's broad. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's what I'm interested in. So, I actually get paid to research and read things that I'm genuinely interested in. So that's fantastic, But as you know, conservation is also this high burnout rate world, right? Like, there's this thing called like issue fatigue.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm just trying to like lay this out for people, and not sound negative. I'm actually a very positive person. The conservation world moves at a slow pace, and you can work on something like Land and Water Conservation Fund, for instance. Like been working on that since 1973, and we just got like full and permanent funding, something that folks have been roundly asking for 40 years, basically. Last year, 2 years ago. And that it just burns people out, like very well-intentioned, passionate people. I'm sure, Joel, like you deal with them all the time, right? Like you get a passionate volunteer. They can move mountains. But that passion, it sometimes it's hard to get that passion to go the distance that it unfortunately takes, right?
Yep. That's always been the experience, and I think people want to win, right?
You want to win.
Everybody wants to win, and in conservation, there's not that many people that can say when they're at retirement they can and make this long list of all these huge wins, and so it's almost for the good of the order. And you're handing the torch on to the next one, and it's hard to find sometimes. Without passion, you have nothing. And so I'm going to do a fist bump with you. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
I'm sure I'm jumping ahead, but I got to say, like, one thing that we did today, right? We put out hen houses.
Yeah. We'll get there, but go for it. Yeah.
And that is like a tangible thing that we did today that probably will have a beneficial result at a minimum. it's probably not going to have a negative result.
New.
And it just feels good. Like we physically did something.
Yeah.
That will more than likely benefit waterfowl hunting or bird watchers or, it's just a good thing. And when you start talking about like conservation policy and big things, like you got to have some stamina, right? You like to go the distance takes some stamina.
You do. Sean, how many hen houses did you guys put out today?
We only did 2 today on the slough, like right there where we were hunting.
Okay, so you guys just, on average, you guys will have helped produce 2.25 new mallards per year with that hen house.
Yeah, and that was just talking with Matt Chouinard about how much it really does increase nest success. It's like, it's such an easy thing. It took us, granted Matt had the materials kind of set up, but for us to roll the hen house portion and put them out all together was a combined like 25 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely, you're the punctuation mark at the end of a very long sentence when you're pounding that hen house in. A lot of work does go into it.
For sure.
We'll bring in Matt. Matt's not here. You guys have him just worn out, and he's going to go home and hang out with his family tonight. Yeah.
I told Matt, I said, Matt, if you're feeling worn out, don't worry about it. Like most folks really regret having us out at about the 24-hour mark. So he's stood up longer than a lot of folks.
Oh, yeah. Matt's a good sport. I'll go back-to-back with Matt anytime. So, Sean, what's your role at MeatEater?
Duck nerd is one nickname, I guess you could say. But really, I'm a producer of the new show and series called Duck Lore. And that's a waterfowl-centric YouTube series that we'll be coming out with.
That's awesome. So, yeah, that was going to be my next one. So, for all the listeners, Ryan and Sean are in South Central North Dakota. Right now, they're sitting with me in my office in Bismarck. They've been out here the last few days. One more day to go?
Yeah.
Videoing some waterfowl hunts with one of my coworkers, Matt Chouinard. He's a senior waterfowl programs manager. And a couple other, I guess, friends of Delta, Tom Hutchins, Ben Buntrock, a few other people that have been helping out. Sean, you got us going there, but so you're out here videoing waterfowl hunts. And again, tell us a little bit more about the show, maybe some of the principles that you guys hope to stand on. And
yeah, definitely. I think in general, there's like waterfowl just should be more celebrated in the content that is like oriented around it. Not to base what we're doing off of things that already exist, but I just think there's so much in waterfowl hunting that like kind of gets left out. For example, like today we had our crane hunt was like driving rain, and they're not decoying well. And, it's kind of to be expected in a 30-mile-an-hour wind and driving rain. And we turned ourselves around in the blind and shot them coming low over the back of the blind. And I think anyone out hunting would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? It's a crane at 15 yards. At the end of the day, you get some great meat in the freezer out of it.
And my first crane ever.
I haven't checked that box yet, so I'm jealous.
Yeah, it was great. It was a blast. And, anyone would do that. It was so much fun. We had a roar of a time doing it. But, that's something that would probably get left out of, like, most videos and content. So,
yeah, no, one thing I've always liked, and I think most people do like about MeatEater content, MeatEater videos, is, I tell you the number of times I've heard this, or maybe even I've said it, is, it's a hunt where you only harvested a bird or two or nothing, or you harvested an elk or nothing. there's always such a great story to tell, and that seems to be left out too often. And I mean, fortunately, you guys have had some nice hunts, and so you'll have all kinds of content to choose from.
Yeah, nice hunts is like putting it lightly. It's been fantastic. We've been spoiled.
Oh yeah,
Like really spoiled.
Yeah. I thank you for noticing that. I think that is a huge thing. Like it's real content. Like our founder, Steven Ranella, that guy goes so far above and beyond to make things like painful and miserable just in case somebody asks if things are real. Mm-hmm. So you can be like, let me tell you how real it is. Right?
Yep.
In just silly ways, to be honest with you. It is real stuff, and what we're doing is just exactly what anybody can go out and get into if they put their nose to it, So, but we had, Matt was driving around trying to find birds in a drought year, pitiful year, and all of a sudden you guys got a little bit of rain, and he was driving around and saw some birds in a field, and then went and knocked on the door and got permission and told them what we were up to, and then took another look at the field and was like, oh, there's more than some birds in there. Mm-hmm. And they hung around for a couple of days for us to show up.
Yeah.
It was just like wild. And we had, really a phenomenal shoot. It wasn't like limits on top of limits for everybody, but it was like we were amongst lots and lots of, like, when the birds finally left, it was a noticeable silence.
After 2 hours. Like it was like a solid hour and a half of like, there is a dull roar of speckle bellies in the background.
Wow.
But that really was a testament to how well these birds find water. Like how quick they, just like that, they're there.
Yeah. Well, today's Wednesday, and there was a good rain event
Saturday.
And it did. It's amazing how quickly some of those shallow depressions fill up. Now, if you're looking at a large lake or a huge marsh, you're not going to see that bounce maybe as pronounced. You have to look a little closer. It's a rise of inches. But when you look at those small basins, it's amazing. And I have to tell you guys, I've been at Delta 20 years now, and one of the most common questions or phone calls that we ever field is, hey, I'm coming out to North Dakota to hunt. When should I go? And I'll be honest with you, this week that you guys picked would be the one I'd say don't come, because it's usually the local birds have been hunted for a few weeks, and you end up with that, I don't know if it's burnout or it's just kind of that lull before ducks come down. And then on top of it, because of our pheasant hunting season, residents have, I guess, exclusive access to state lands for pheasants. So as a non-resident coming in, there goes a whole bunch of public land. And so I'm really pleased the way that it worked out for you guys. And it seems like there's some earlier cold weather coming.
Yeah.
We've kind of described this, the farming practices. Farmers have been really challenged by this drought, and it's been prairie wide. And so we've kind of wondered if, poor crops meant less forage in the fields, which meant a faster migration.
Sure. Like you'd get skipped over.
Yep. They just kind of move on because, a field that maybe Sean gave them food for a week or something like that. Now maybe a day, maybe less, one feed. And they're just switching. Pressure can make them jump faster. And so we did notice a big shot of birds here just about the time that you just described it. Matt had a spot, few birds, all of a sudden there's a bunch of birds there. And so it's been good timing for you guys, and I'm really tickled for that.
Oh, it was. I was talking to Sean, and he's like, oh yeah, it's still dry, it's still going to be tough. And I'm your typical like new bird dog guy, right? I used to have dogs forever, and now I finally have a puppy again, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like anything. I just need,
Right.
give me some bird scent.
got
and we're going to
wings,
have, and I'm in. And I was coming back from helping a buddy with the moose and was driving across a chunk of Montana and could just noticeably see it was, evening and birds were flying everywhere. And I was like, ooh, like there's definitely something happening here and this was like days ahead of the cold front that just started smacking everybody. And so that was a good sign. And then, it just seemed like there were birds kind of rolling a couple days ahead of that front. And then the rain came down over here and gave them something to stick around for, I guess. So
Yeah, absolutely. So on this particular series of videos that you guys, or the hunts that you were on and videoing, you worked in, we talked about a little bit, hen houses into the storyline. Is this something, are hen houses something that interested you guys? How did you land on, hey, let's work hen houses into this one?
For me, absolutely. Because in talking to people from Delta and friends, they seem like the most simple thing and tangible, like Cal was talking about. Such a simple thing that like anyone can do. It doesn't take special knowledge or really that special of tools. Like in general, if you have access to some metalworking tools of any kind, like you can make hen houses and place hen houses. And I don't see enough of them. Like I've spent a lot of time driving through pothole country in South Dakota and don't see very many hen houses. And, I also think it's something where hunters have this opportunity to like very easily give back to not just like the resource that they're taking from, but also the landowner specifically that maybe they go hunt on their land. If they get permission to go hunt a pond, maybe that landowner doesn't care about seeing ducks in the summer, or maybe they do. But would it be that awful of a question for like to become a kind of status quo for people to ask of like, hey, do you care if I come back this summer or this winter and place a couple hen houses? And I guess I haven't heard people having that conversation, but I think it'd be a cool one.
No, I think the comment, if there is a conversation, it's, hey, here's a pie. Here's some, my dad actually growing up in Wisconsin, this I'm fitting the stereotype. People from Wisconsin drink beer and eat cheese, but my dad found this farmland, and the guy was a dairy farmer, and he secured permission for this marsh and this guy's pasture for a brick of cheese each year. That's all it took. And then to see him take, my brothers and I out hunting, I mean, the guy, it was over. Cheese and kids hunting, and you're in. But it's, you don't hear the conservation message between hunters and the landowner. It typically is. Most people think about hunting year round, I'm guessing, if you're really into it, but don't often think of the conservation intersect. And hen houses, citizen conservation, it's something that you can do by yourself. And for those that maybe aren't familiar with a hen house is like a wood duck box for mallards. It's a cylinder mounted over a wetland, and you guys actually, Ryan, you guys pounded in one in a wetland. It's not that hard.
We pounded in two on one wetland, and Matt explained to us like even, he's found, or that Delta's found, two a wetland is a good number.
Yeah. It's, on Delta's website, we have kind of a best management practices guide, air photos, potential locations, how to build them, how to take care of them, what to build them out of. And I'd encourage everybody to go do that one. And, it's interesting, like a wood duck looks for a cavity, right? It looks for a hole in a tree to jump in to have a nest. And there's other cavity nesters, mergansers, but mallards, there's nothing about a mallard that says, I'm looking for an elevated cylinder to jump in. That's not natural. They're just so innovative. And I would imagine everybody has a story of some parking lot mallard or anything. Ryan, do you guys have any mallard nests that you can think of?
A very creative Canada goose nest. Almost knocked me off a cliff one day.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't see that coming.
No, I did not. And I was like, it was one of those things where I was very high up on a precipice, and this thing came blowing out from underneath me, and I was trying to make sure that I didn't fall to my death, and part of my brain was like, I think that was a goose. And I was like, and got myself secure, and then looked down, and sure enough, there's a goose nest down there, and I was like, no way. Just like little, like as razor thin a finger ridge as you could find, very high up. I like climbing up on tall things. Just if I get close enough to it, I don't got to go to the top type of thing. Not that I'm a rock climber or anything, but scrambler, I guess. But my mom is very, very fond of a set of mallards that nest on her place every year, and their offspring comes back and tries to nest too, and she is, it's a springtime thing. She knows who survives and who doesn't, and I'm absolutely gonna build at least one of these things out on the irrigation ditch.
That's cool. That is cool. And I don't know what it is about a mallard. I mean, I've heard some of the stories that come our way, nesting on rooftops of abandoned buildings, seats of old tractors parked in the woods, shoots of a grain auger. I mean, we have one at our office. And for those that follow Delta on Instagram, for the last 3 years, she nests in the bushes right outside our windows. And hatches.
I love the irony.
Every year.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But we just have to watch the dogs. Like, I have my lab here in the office right now, and so we really have to watch our dogs during that time period and get them straight in. So it's probably confusing for them. But
that was one of my early dog training questions. Because we always talk about, have you ever shot a coot? And I was like, I've shot a bunch of coots. I'm like, if you have a puppy, you end up shooting coots. Like, you gotta get that dog retrieving, and have that reward. When you do all the things and the ducks aren't flying,
right?
And the upland bird side of things, you will find these like late mallards in eastern Montana. I've found that are out in the grasslands when that it's relatively early, September 1. Grouse season starts, and you're out trying to find your puppy or grouse, and it will catch a mallard coming off a nest. And so you have this live mallard that's out of season, and you have your puppy that's as proud can be.
Look, Dad.
And you have to somehow distract the puppy away from the bird and let the bird go. And it's like this, it's a hard kind of moral situation of
right.
It's sleight of hand type of situation, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but you're saying that you have how old's your dog?
She's 1.5 years now.
Yeah, I remember I'm on my second lab ever of mine. We grew up with Springers and labs, but I remember I obsessed over the first introduction to water. I'm like, watch me be the duck biologist who has a lab who's afraid of water or afraid of a gunshot or whatever. I just pained over that. How's that experience going for you, Ryan?
Oh, it's really good. I have a very sensitive girl, and she actually just came into heat on this trip. So I went back to the truck to get her today, and she decided that she didn't want to jump into the side-by-side in the Can-Am, which is abnormal. And I was like, come on, but also wanted to get back to these guys and help and not just be gone mysteriously while they're doing all the work. And I kind of was like, get in the damn... And she turned and walked away and went back to the truck and sat next to the truck door and looked at me like...
Didn't like the rain or what?
You don't talk to me that way. And then it took twice as long because I had to, get down on my knees and make up with the dog. And she came over and gave me a little hug. And then I asked her very politely to get in the Can-Am, and I put her in the Can-Am, and she was happy, and then we went and she retrieved her first crane.
So now you guys have reached that mutual understanding.
I don't know.
You are submissive. Yes, that's right.
by another lady. So, other than that, things are going fantastic.
Yeah.
To answer the question,
Yeah.
we're kicking butt, and she's a wickedly smart dog, and she's got an incredible mind, and watching her hunt upland is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And then her retrieving drive on waterfowl is crazy, and she can just like mark birds. So we've got a lot of things, a really serious head start on a lot of things, and I've been very, very blessed to have some really phenomenal labs in my past, and I truly believe like this one's, she's got a head start on all those other dogs. And we just need to, it's just going to take some patience out of me to put, because of that head start, it's going to take some real patience out of me to put the pieces together in a way that she wants them to come together. That's going to make her like an all-time lab. So,
what's her name?
Snort.
Shout out to Snort. She sounds smart enough that I don't want her. Listening. I don't want her mad at me. Sean, Duck Guru, do you have yourself a dog?
I do. I've got a new little pup. Her name is Case, and she is like a pup.
Yeah.
Few months old pup.
Yeah.
So,
oh, come on, do the weeks, right? You got to be like, it's like we picked her up at 8 weeks, and so she's like 15 weeks.
Weeks are starting to blend together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Like with kids, my kid's 17 months old, year and a half. So at some point you hit the year mark, and it's 1 year, 2 year. Yeah, my lab is going to be 10, and once they hit this age, it just it feels like a ticking time bomb. Chester feels like a ticking time bomb. You know, it's like every day they just wake up, and you just I just cherish it. And I think in the front end you're so consumed with, you know, the potty training and the chewing and the training and all that kind of stuff, and you think, oh yeah, it's gonna last forever. But yeah, you get to that 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're like, dang, you know, gonna get my heart broke real bad here in a few years. And
that's what you sign up for. I mean, it's just such a cruel joke, but also, you know, that 10-year mark too. Those dogs look at you and they're like, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I mean, come on,
get away with anything. Yeah.
Like, you're right.
You're right.
Yeah. Hey, I want to learn. You know, I think you guys are making a duck hunting show or a waterfowl hunting show. So people probably think, oh, these guys have been doing it forever, and maybe you have. But Sean, go back into, you know, was waterfowl hunting a family affair? Was it something that was handed down to you, or did you just get into it on your own?
Yeah. So my dad's always been a duck hunter, but what got me hooked, I can still remember it, like 3 back-to-back experiences. The first when I was 9, you know, I got to go hunting with him. I wasn't shooting yet, obviously, but he left me at home at my grandma's one time. We were visiting Grandma and Grandpa, and it was snowing, so I had to stay home. And he went out and came back with like beautiful Drake pintail, some widgeon, some greenheads, and I was like, this is even the first pintail I've ever seen, you know. And I was so mad, I was like bawling my eyes out, just upset. And so then, you know, I was always going with him. Got hooked when I was 12 and got to start, you know, actually shooting. And then it was only maybe, I think I was either 13 or 14. Got to go hunting with a buddy's buddy, pretty much. And he was, you know, he was a real good duck hunter, like really knew his way around the marsh. And he took us out in his nice duck boat and all that. And we shot, you know, pretty much a 3-man limit of greenheads. And I was ruined. I can probably count on one hand, like the number of major life decisions I've made that weren't correlated to waterfowl. I've just always been ate up with it. I just love it.
Yeah, no, it's that was my first hunting. You know, my family we hunted lots of different things, but waterfowl hunting growing up, it's great for a young person. I think it scratches a lot of itches. But yeah, it's been a part of my life, and obviously working here at Delta, I guess it's a natural extension of a lot of my passions. But Ryan, how about you? I have a two-part question for you. But the first one is, you know, where did you come into waterfowl hunting?
You know, honestly, I wouldn't like describe my family as hunters, like certainly not like how they identify. But goose hunting on the Flathead River in Montana, which is like where all of my young hunting memories are. And that's what they deemed acceptable. Like, this is what we do for hunting, and you don't ever shoot at a duck. It's geese only. And you know, a lot of it, I would have just killed and to go, right? And then when I finally did get to go, I was so young that I couldn't actually hunt, but I could go along with everybody. And then I was there, and so much of it to me was like not hunting, you know? It was like looking out the car window and coordinating and eating breakfast and you know, and then the dogs were locked up in kennels in the trucks, and the boats didn't get out of the trucks. And then you're glassing birds on the river, and they would do these like big coordinated pushes where you'd like boat shooters out to islands and then gently push big flocks of geese over those islands. And it took serious coordination to do it well, and these guys just had it down, and that was what they did, and it was years of doing that to then be able to hunt and actually pull the trigger and get a goose and do all the stuff. And then I hear stories about it now, and it's like, everybody still talks about you. Like, we always thought you'd give up on that, you know?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Like getting covered in water, having to sit, you know, have wet dogs sit on top of you and all the stuff. And it was pretty cool. But yeah, it definitely like just fired me up about everything. So
yeah, I always say I kind of look back on, well, I'll chalk it up. I'll call it romance. There's this romanticism of waterfowl hunting, or all kinds of hunting, being difficult. When you love to hunt, the toughest conditions, the coldest feet, the frozen hands, the rain that you guys were in all day today, those make some of the most lasting impressions and best stories. And I guess at my age, I'm 47, I feel that romance. I don't have to reflect on it. I feel it in the moment. But yeah, looking back to my childhood, you know, using those old Sorel boots that, I mean, they didn't keep me warm at all. You know, like I suffered, and it's amazing.
You better suffer quietly.
You better suffer quietly.
If you want to go
dare
again.
say you're cold.
Yeah.
Ryan, I think you have Bozeman is where you live now, right?
Yes, sir.
Bozeman, Montana. Yep. And when I say Bozeman, and people hear the word Bozeman, they probably don't think duck hunting mecca, goose hunting mecca, and there is actually some decent waterfowling out in your part of the woods. Sean, when you think of South Dakota or North Dakota here, you think, oh yeah, upland birds, waterfowl. Quite likely, people hunt something, you know, upland birds or waterfowl, and that seems normal. Waterfowl hunting in Montana doesn't seem normal. And so I understand a little bit of your background. You have a guiding background that involved big game, some waterfowl maybe?
A little bit of waterfowl, yeah.
Fishing. What role, and I'm putting you on the spot with this one, but what role do you see that waterfowl hunting plays in, I guess, the overall types of hunting that are out there? Or maybe putting it a different way, if someone lives out west or somewhere and they don't waterfowl hunt, why should they?
Oh, I think, like one of those T-shirts, right? Like hunting is conservation thing. Like if you want to study conservation in the United States, North America, you are going to learn about waterfowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is a bedrock cornerstone story of conservation. And I don't honestly know if there's another conservation story out there that quite sums up what, I mean, honestly, at that time, like people who shot for a living could do for literally everyone. Like by conserving big, red-headed birds that folks wanted to pay for at supper clubs and restaurants, you thereby like conserve and protect, areas that hold, hundreds of millions of gallons of fresh water that then people in those cities can drink fresh water. That habitat supports an absolutely insane amount of wildlife that is not hunted, but people, value because that wildlife then travels to their bird feeders in their backyards. These systems, these wetland systems, is what always comes to mind when you think of waterfowl. They benefit everyone. And when you look at that story that I, greatly condensed here, that is one that should be told and studied and discussed back and forth when you talk about just hunting in general. So I think if you want to hunt, that is something that you really need to look at, right? Like I absolutely get and have lived like the archery all the time and the elk all the time and the mule deer all the time, more than I can express. But waterfowl is definitely where I started, and it's certainly where my mind goes back to when I want to explain what hunting is and what hunting can do. And I think it would, do everybody some good to kind of go back to that root education, and you learn so much. Just like Sean Weaver here, duck nerd, right? He knows a lot about ecology. He knows a lot about geology. He knows a lot about weather systems, and it all comes from a bird, right? It's something that has no boundaries. It moves a lot. It is subject to how people plant and how people divert water and, what people put into that water. It's an endless topic that you can access through something that is truly phenomenal table fare as well. There's a lot of touch points, to ignore the duck, it would be to ignore an incredible topic, an incredible source of education.
The 2-minute elevator speech on conservation, like the easy stories are canvasbacks, wood ducks, like heck, giant Canada goose. Like waterfowl is just there's such a story and backdrop of how you end up with everyone thinking the giant Canada goose is extinct. And then now they're on every golf course across the Midwest and much of America. Like
much to people's chagrin, right?
Right.
Yeah. I tell this all the time, but my grandpa in Billings, Montana, which if you like Canada geese, my gosh, man, Billings is just inundated with them, and much eastern Montana at this point. And we were at this restaurant, and there's this little water feature outside the restaurant, and there's this goose out there. And, I'm always watching wildlife and birds and whatever. And my grandpa was like, people would stop their cars when they'd see a goose in town. He's like, and now they're everywhere. And at that point, I didn't know. I couldn't put two and two together. I'm like, why would anybody ever stop their car for a goose? But You know, I mean, he's like, there were no geese in Billings, Montana, to the point where if a goose landed anywhere near town, people would stop their cars to look at it. And now it's like, how do we get rid of these things?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, there was just to kind of stick with that one, in North Dakota, there's a project that I was working on in north central North Dakota, and I had to get permission from a landowner, and I sat down with that landowner. He was just a wonderful guy, but we got talking at the kitchen table, and he was proud and ashamed that he was a part of the reintroduction of the giant Canada goose into North Dakota. And he pointed out the window, and there was this island in the middle of a slough on his property. He says, yeah, right there, he goes, is where we let the first pair go back. And he said, he shook his head, and he goes, I kind of almost regret it now. He said, because they're everywhere, right? In early seasons. And he goes, yeah, I'd like to talk to myself back then. But he was joking. But, but it is amazing. And I think that continental resource, you know, spanning from Canada through Mexico, there's no simple issue. And so many pressures, you know, I think in the West, lots of public land, unable to be developed, different issues. And maybe it's migration corridors that are the big issue with mule deer, for example. But yeah, waterfowl, I think it's one of the things that I like about this career field is call it job security, but the job will never be done. It'll never be done.
You know, you bring up like the West. Look at the water issues the whole West is having, and it doesn't seem like those water issues are going away anytime soon. And you know, Klamath is a good example this year. Like, that's going to have huge impacts on waterfowl. Mm-hmm. It's going to have huge impacts on people
because Klamath is
dry, bone dry. Yeah, Klamath is just nothing to it right now.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I like about, I think like you guys, I hunt many different types of animals, you know, deer, waterfowl, turkeys, mule deer, antelope, whitetails here. But what I like about, you know, if I lay out all the different types of hunting on a timeline, I mean, I can start with doves and I can end with turkeys in the month of January. For you out west, you can start with big game, end with waterfowl.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to, you know, if you love to hunt, you know, there's room for it all. You know, big game, you know, I like the remoteness. I like the quality experience. But I have to admit, you know, there's an itch that likes to shoot, you know, fill a bag, do it again the next day. It scratches a different type of itch. And so I'd encourage everybody to hunt as many different things as possible and value each of them for what they bring you.
Oh, you know, what we've been doing, you know, some of the ducks that we got the very first day weren't like the big corn-fed mallards. They were some local birds. They were smaller. And, you know, I look at that and I don't go, oh, shoot. I go, oh, sausage. You know, and I love sausage. You know, we got speckle bellies that are phenomenal table fare. I do not know. I truly do not know if, God, man, these Canada geese that
oh my God.
We got 2 yesterday and 1 today that
we put the smaller one on the scale today. Like, it's noticeably not as big as the 2 giants that we shot yesterday.
One of the guys that we were cleaning with was like, well, we should weigh that thing. And I'm like, it's not as heavy as the other ones.
And it was 14.6. And there was one yesterday that, like, covered snort on the retrieve. Like, there was no seeing that dog.
My dog's 46 pounds.
So she was carrying, like, well over a third of her body weight.
Did you get a picture of that? I guess you did.
Hopefully.
Freeze a frame, maybe? Freeze a frame.
But I was like, God, this dog's getting tired. But, you know, you got a third of your body weight in your mouth.
Yeah.
Well, at least, and that was on dry land?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. You know, I think most young dogs will drag something back across the water, but on land, it's, you know, I think that's where some of the shyness kicks in. So, hey, you got that covered too.
Yeah, and that's pastrami and Reuben sandwiches.
Nice.
For the most part. Yeah.
Back home?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the processing to legally transport, we've been doing, when you process for particular things, you can do it in different ways. Mm-hmm. But I got to get it all home to fully process it. So it's all in bulk pieces, right. Nicely labeled, packaged.
Wings, heads.
Yeah. Don't have a VRBO in Bismarck during waterfowl season. We're going to clean it up, I swear. But it's probably not what you picture going on.
Yeah. No, that's funny. Yeah, my dad would come out with some friends from Wisconsin, and they would take over a hotel in Steele, North Dakota, that's no longer there. They would do just horrible things to that hotel room, and they always cleaned it up. But, cold and rainy, you get back, you're cleaning your birds in the hotel room. But,
yeah, I guess that's just part of waterfowl and conditions. When you end up with like the rain and snow type days, I mean, forget it. Nothing's going to ever stay clean. I one time got a real bad snowstorm and all the decoys, caked in ice. Mm-hmm. And that poor hotel, we had 3 rooms and all 3 bathtubs, filled with decoys and hot water running to thaw everything out.
Yeah,
you really hope they don't, walk in at that moment.
We used to stay at this place that it was a motel, like old school motel, and the back wall was against like this busy main street. And before we'd go in, I'd let my dog out, walk her over to our hotel room window that I'd leave so I knew it was ours, and I'd sit her down right there, and then we'd walk in, and there were no dog signs everywhere. Then I could walk over and open up that window, and she'd jump through the window into the room off Main Street. And then there was a sign in the window that said, there was a sign in the bathroom window that said the sink is for you, not your guns, and not your dogs.
And I know exactly what you use that sink for. Guns and dogs.
Yeah. I have to say that hotel in Steele, it just came to me. Rest in peace. It was the Lone Steer Motel. So rest in peace, Motel. Lone Steer. I remember you. Well, hey, gonna kind of moving in towards the end of the podcast here. I've really appreciated the time you guys have given us, and I know you're up early in the morning and getting out into the field again one more time. But so you guys obviously are great waterfowl hunters. And I'll let you guys, I'm not going to touch who's the better waterfowl hunter or the better shot, but hey, now like I said, you're in the headquarters of Delta Waterfowl, the oldest waterfowl conservation organization, been doing research since 1938, hunting advocacy, all that kind of stuff. I want to see who's the smartest guy about waterfowl. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I feel like we're handicapped here. We've been running on like 2.5 hours of sleep a night here for the last couple of days. But anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. Yeah, so I'm just trying to come up with. I want you guys to get these right, but don't feel bad if you don't. I'm so close to it. So have you, Sean? We're gonna go with you. Have you heard of the prairie pothole region?
Yep.
Yeah, you kind of live in the prairie pothole region.
Yeah, I do.
So pay attention to that one, Cal. So do I. So true or false? The prairie pothole region makes up approximately 1.1% of the North American landmass. So on a given year, the PPR can produce, this is true or false, on a given year, the PPR can produce up to 70% of the continent's duck population. True or false, Sean?
Oh, it's true. Maybe if it was false, I would think it's because that number could be higher, but it's true.
Yeah. It can be as high as 70%. It really can. And,
wow.
We talked a little bit about, maybe off air, how the glacier, created what's called the prairie pothole region. And it's just, if you get up in an airplane, in a small aircraft, and as far as you can see wetlands. And it's amazing. And on each of those wetlands are many pairs of ducks. And that is just replicated square mile after square mile after square mile. It all adds up to, up to 70% of the continent's duck population. So we're right on the western edge here in Bismarck. And again, welcome. So, Cal, name 3 of the 5 main jurisdictions of the prairie pothole region.
Oh, my goodness. Jurisdictions?
Yeah, like states, provinces. Gave you 2 of them.
Oh, it's states and provinces?
Yep.
Oh,
So 5 main, give me 3 of them.
North Dakota, South Dakota,
You got those?
Minnesota. Is that a prairie pothole region?
It is, but it's not gonna. I'm not gonna call it Maine.
Don't count it.
Yeah, it is, but under the heading of Maine. Now you need to jump into Canada.
Really? So Saskatchewan.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So the 3 prairie provinces that make up the prairie pothole region in Canada. It's about 2/3 of the landmass of the prairie pothole region fall in Canada. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba.
Okay.
Jump into the United States, about 1/3 of the PPR. North Dakota, South Dakota, western strip of Minnesota.
And Wisconsin, right?
Not Wisconsin.
Really?
Nope, just that western border of North Dakota, Minnesota. Little bit of Iowa. Mm-hmm. That one's often debated because it's been so heavily altered, but historically it was. And believe it or not, northeast Montana, the far northeast corner, also is considered part of the prairie pothole.
A little satellite imagery will show you that.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty, on a good wet year, there's plenty of potholes up there.
That's
for sure.
That when I got into like my Roman days, and I got I hooked up with this outfitter, the first outfitter I ever worked for. It was back before anybody had easy access to maps and stuff, and he just had this unbelievable mental map of every little thing that held water. And I was telling Sean today when we did some pass shooting, I was like, God, this is how I grew up. I mean, it's like, and I grew up in drought years too. And it was like, we're going to pop over this thing. And if there's birds on the water, we're going to shoot them.
Yep.
It's like, there was no like, wait for green. It was like,
right.
If there's water in there, there could be ducks, and if there's ducks, we're gonna eat them.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys had that experience. I think it's human nature to overcomplicate things, and waterfowl hunting. 1,000 snow goose decoys and this and that and the other, but every once in a while, it's fun to just grab the gun, grab the dog, and have a simple experience and cherish how simple it can be.
Oh absolutely.
Yeah. One of the most vivid ducks in my mind ever shooting was a wood duck on a little drainage next to the railroad tracks with my brother. Just, we'd go check it after school. Just keeping ourselves busy,
And then it keeps filling up as the season goes along, right?
Mm-hmm.
As migration comes through. Okay, so you guys, I am jealous. I've lived here 20 years. I have yet to harvest a white-fronted goose. You guys got into a good white front hunt, as by all accounts shared with me. So, Sean, multiple choice. Which is not another name for the white-fronted goose? A, specklebelly, B, speck, C, tule goose, or D, barred goose? Which one of those is not another name for a speck?
Barred goose. Tule goose is the tule goose, right, is a small group of specks from, is it Cook's Inlet, Alaska, that end up in California.
It is. Yep, the tule is. It's makes up the greater white-fronted goose.
Yeah.
Yep. So good one. I think that's awesome.
I would have got that wrong. I know the California migration story, but I didn't know that was because didn't
there's a goofy deal of like
because I heard barbelly today or yesterday, right?
Yeah, and like you refer, you'll say, "Oh, he's barred up," like he's got good bars. But he's not
referring to like the little black kind of bars on a white-fronted goose's belly. Right?
Yeah. The tule goose. Guys, I'm cheating. I'm reading this one. This extra added layer of trivia. The tule goose is an actual subspecies of the greater white-fronted goose in North America, though its population is only about 7,500 birds in the Pacific Flyway.
Yeah,
Ooh.
That's the ones I was talking about. I'll thank Delta's own Dr. Nikolai for teaching me that bit.
Oh yeah, that's a guy full of a lot of information.
No, I can talk to him for days.
Yeah, glad you got to know him. First of many conversations. Okay, Cal, this is up to you now. Okay, so you guys got into some Canada geese, right?
Yes.
So we're going to go with true or false. Canada geese, in general, are a short-lived species. Few birds make it past the 5th or 6th year, even in unhunted populations.
False.
Right on. Right on. You're absolutely correct.
But in regards to geese, like all the geese, they are short-lived when compared to like snow geese. And I do think speckled bellies as well. I want to say Canada geese are the shortest lived goose we have in North America.
You know, I'm not going to disagree with you on that one, but this one, you know, there's always an exception to the rule. So the oldest known...
You're talking about the banded one.
Well, you guys can throw anybody that wants to make this guess. So how old was the oldest known Canada goose?
18.
No, it's I want to say it's 27 or it's 25 or somewhere up in there. It's crazy old.
So you got closer. 33 years old.
No, it's really old.
Yeah, that particular female was banded in Ohio in 1969, and she was harvested in Ontario, Canada in 2001.
Good gravy.
Yeah. So
Wow.
So is it the how old is the oldest banded canvasback? Do you know that?
that one I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
And
I'll
that's
have to look
why
that one
I'm the
up later.
host, so you can't ask me questions I don't know.
No, that's all right.
Moving on.
I know it's really old too, like way up there. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the number I had mixed up.
Yeah, no, that one's 33 years old.
That's
you
so
know, that
old.
that actually surprised me a little bit, and I think that one's pretty cool. So okay, that puts us back to Sean. Okay, true or false? Unlike ducks, most male geese, ganders, leave the nest and do not play a parental role once incubation begins. True or false?
I'm gonna go ahead and say false.
False.
Yeah.
Kind of leading the witness on that one, leading your answer, but absolutely right. It's false. So ducks, once that hen starts, sits on, establishes a nest and sits on it, the male's gone.
Yeah.
Gone from life forever. Canada geese, it's called biparental care, and it's a lot different. And so once that, the gander will help defend that nest site. And I don't know many people that want to, provoke a giant Canada goose, a 14, 16, 18-pound Canada goose. So they're wildly successful when it comes to defending that nest and then tending, to the goslings. So now you know. At this time of year, you probably weren't you might have been seeing a few family groups of Canada geese, with your hunting, but a lot of that early season hunts that we start here in August, it's family groups. It's a whole different way of hunting. So that's awesome. Okay, so now where are we back? To you, Sean?
No, back to me.
Okay, we're back
Just
to you.
be fair.
We do need to be fair.
I'm pretty sure I would have guessed wrong.
You want to do this one, yeah. Okay, so name 3 species of ducks, Cal, that nest in the uplands. So nest in grass.
Mallards. I would think gadwall. Uh-oh, that didn't look good.
You're good. You got 2.
Oh, shoot. Widgeon?
Yes. Ding, ding, ding. Got your 3.
Because
Yeah.
we're canvasback, they nest out like right on top of the water, right?
And they're like, out in the cattails.
Yep, I'm not going to answer that one because that's
sorry.
part of the next question.
Oh.
Yeah. No, mallards. Here's
I'm just
a
telling
blue
the audience
wings,
that
yeah.
there's a big red-headed duck with a white back carved decoy on the table here that I keep staring at with bright red eyes.
Yeah, that's a beauty. It's a huge canvasback sculpture, and this, I grew up with wood heat as our primary heat source, and that sat right next to the wood stove my entire
awesome.
childhood.
That
So
makes it way cooler.
Yeah, that does.
So my parents
really
gave me
cool.
that, and that's pretty cool. Sits right in the middle of our podcast table right here. Mallards, blue-winged teal, pintail, lesser scaup. That one's a wild card for many. You think of shovelers, widgeon, gadwall, green-winged teal, black ducks. Long list.
Oh, wow.
You did a good job. So, overwater nesters. I think this one's a little harder, so we're going to limit it to 2. Sean, name 2 species of ducks that commonly nest over the water.
Canvasbacks, and ringnecks. Right?
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. Redheads are another one. Greater scaup, ruddy ducks, and mallards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Meaning-
especially when you put them in a hen house.
Put them in
Yeah.
a hen house. They're high over the water.
Yep,
Yeah.
they'll nest on a muskrat mound.
definitely.
Geese will do that too. But yeah, you pick about anything except this next one. Cal, give me 2 duck species that nest in a tree cavity.
Mergansers.
Oh, you went right to a tougher one. Actually, I mentioned that one before, but you probably knew that one.
I know. That's why I'm staring at you.
Yeah.
Wood ducks. Yeah.
Yeah, buffleheads are another one.
Buffleheads.
And
Yeah.
buffleheads. Oh, that's
Do
cool.
you have another one, Sean?
I'm not sure. Are golden eyes? I don't know.
There
that.
you go. I was just
Yeah.
going to give you a hint, but you didn't need it.
That's a
yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, goldeneye and whistling ducks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
We don't have those around here, but yeah, that one's pretty neat. It's we did a study where we put hen houses out in northwest Pennsylvania and southern Ontario, and it was a research project. We know the hen house works so well in the prairie pothole region, but how does it work in other areas where the breeding densities of mallards are less? And we had a lot of wood ducks using the hen house in
nice.
that part of the world. So we had mallards, we had wood ducks. We've had scaup use them. So a hen house, you guys did it. It's like we mount them 3 feet off the water, and mostly that's because that 3 foot distance. As people, we can still see into that hen house if the wetland's frozen, but it's high enough that a raccoon or other terrestrial predator can't get in there. But every once in a while, you'll get a huge bounce in water levels. And so the 3 feet also gives 3 feet of freeboard before the water, inundates that hen house. But right when the water's right up to the bottom of the hen house, we've actually had other, diving duck species crawl right into those things and use them. But you don't want that
Predators
anyway.
becomes the problem.
Yeah, because now a raccoon can swim out there, a mink can get out there, and it just goes on and on and on. So, a couple left here. I'm terrible. Who did I ask last?
It was you asked me about the
Divers.
divers.
No,
Or the tree nesters, and that
I went to
was
the tree
him.
nesters, right?
And then
So it's back to
it was
you.
the bonus, so it's back to me.
Back to you. Okay. Redhead ducks and wood ducks are commonly act as nest parasites. Multiple choice. So when we call them nest parasites, do we mean that A, they steal nests from other ducks, B, they destroy eggs of other ducks, or C, they lay an egg in another duck's nest, leaving the host hen to hatch and raise the new duckling?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it's A, but is it C?
You want to phone a friend? Do you know?
Let's go A.
C.
You had it.
I did
Yeah,
have
it was. Yeah, you had
Should
you had
trust
this
myself.
notion there. Yeah, that one. It's interesting. So we have a big canvasback study ongoing in southern Manitoba, Canada, for the last 5 or 6 years.
And redheads are sticking their redheads will stick their eggs in those canvasback nests, huh?
Big time.
Oh, that's cool.
Sometimes they'll displace an egg to fit theirs in there, but whether that happens or not, what happens is that canvasback will incubate that redhead's egg, hatch them all at once, and then you end up seeing these mixed broods.
Right.
Canvasback hen, mostly canvasback ducklings.
Sounds like a good children's book.
Yeah. The one the cowbird is one that that you think of when you think of the
Yeah.
Western Plains and a migratory bird, where it makes sense to drop an egg and keep going. But yeah, in the case of redheads, they'll make their own nest, but they will gladly drop their eggs in someone else and say, "Take care of it for me."
I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there being like, I get it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so I think I'm going to ask one last true-false question. Ryan, true or false? 10 1-acre wetlands can support 10 times as many breeding ducks as one 10-acre wetland. True or false?
10 1-acre wetlands can support 10 times more than one 1-acre wetland?
Then 1 10-acre. So
then one
equivalent
10
number.
acre. I think that's true.
It is true. It is true. Any idea why?
I think it's just got to be a density thing.
It's sure. Yeah, it is.
Or
It's
surface area,
It's
however
got
you
to
want a
be
biomass
both
type
shoreline, but then also they don't like to be too close to each other.
yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, this is the fun part. This is the geek out part of it, right?
Yeah.
So ducks are territorial during the breeding season on the water, mostly of their own kind. So let's take a 1-acre wetland where maybe you guys put a hen house on it today. And mallards, so one mallard pair doesn't want another mallard pair on that wetland. But that mallard pair is okay with a pair of pintails, a pair of blue-winged teal, a pair of shovelers. And if you think about it, all the ducks look different. And if you pay attention, they use that wetland or feed differently. You take a shoveler and they're skipping across the surface. You take a mallard who dabbles. It's bigger. It can reach farther down into the bottom of that wetland to forage. So basically, it's kind of a resource partitioning that takes place. And so they all the different species feed in that wetland differently. So they're not competing with each other. So you end up with mallards chasing out other mallards and so on and so forth. So if you have one 10-acre wetland, that's it.
You know what I call that, Sean? Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, right on.
Don't put all your eggs in one 10-acre wetland.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it's there's one last one here that I really want to ask, but I am struggling to find it. So I'm just going to let it go, I guess. I'm going to have to let it go. This one.
Awesome.
Yeah, this one. Yeah,
great.
I would wish I could find this one because it's a shocker here. Okay. So maybe I'll just read this one. We're talking about egg size. Okay? So the largest egg from a duck is from the common eider. Okay? The smallest egg out there from a duck is a green-winged teal. So this is the shocker. So back to Sean, true or false? I'm going to turn this one into a true or false. Okay. As adults, canvasbacks average twice the size of a ruddy duck. We're talking about the size of the body, okay? Yet, the ruddy duck hen lays an egg that's 20% larger than a canvasback egg. True or false?
Oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and say true.
So a duck...
That's wild.
Yeah, so a duck that's half the size lays an egg that's 20% bigger than a bird twice its size. That's true.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Ruddy ducks are a kind of crazy bird as it is.
They are crazy.
They're just a wild one.
They're crazy. I've never harvested one. I typically when I see them, they're not flying anywhere.
Crazy fat color, like almost blue. It's pretty strange. Yeah, they're a little butterball though. They're like almost like a circle.
Oh yeah, and the color, they're just, I don't know, they're just beautiful. Yeah, they're not typically hunted all that much. It's kind of like coots. I never see them flying during the day.
No, they don't fly during the day.
They're just there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
You ever harvested a ruddy duck, Cal?
Oh, very, very hard to say. I mean, we'll say no, but just remember like my puppy comment, right? So,
Yeah.
spent a lot of days with no birds flying. So why the disparity in egg size, and like what's the advantage? That do they have a longer nesting period? Are they an absentee parent? Do they like cover the egg up and leave? What's the story? Why is the egg so much bigger?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. My orientation that I bring to waterfowl and waterfowl science is almost always that of a management perspective. Mm-hmm. And I've yet to figure out from a manager's perspective how egg size helps me build programs. So when this podcast is done, I'm going to look that one up.
All right, I'm going to say canvasback has a much shorter nesting period and can bring a brood to hatch at a faster rate than the ruddy duck, whereas the ruddy duck has that longer incubation period, and those embryos need a longer time to develop, hence the larger egg size.
That's your guess, huh?
That's my theory.
Okay. Well, then, what's your theory, Sean? And then I'm going to do some research, and I'm going to get this back to you guys.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a good cliffhanger for the audience.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I don't think I have a theory on that. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about, personally, about egg size and its function.
Yeah. I'm with you guys.
I'm going to tell you my pet peeve on my podcast, right? I have I always plug my email address, which is askcal@themeateater.com. My podcast is Cal's Week in Review. And my pet peeve is when people write in with an article and they say, hey, read this and let me know what you think about it. Or read this and tell me what it means. That's my pet peeve. Read this and tell me what it means. And I'm always like, you're almost there. Read it yourself.
You have the question. You have the article. Email. You tell me what you think.
Yeah. So figure out this egg question.
So I should say, Cal, why don't you look up that question and get back to me?
I will, for sure. I will.
Yeah. Actually, I know there's early in my time.
Look it up and send him the research paper and say, let me know what you think.
Yeah.
This much I do know. It's a giant dang egg. It's huge. And I think there's some pain that is experienced. When you look at that egg, there's some pain that's experienced getting that out of the body. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on that note, hey, we found a bonding moment. There was... None of us knew that one.
That's a great one.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, as we wrap up here, I want to make sure people, let's just plug the show upcoming again here. So you say, name of the show?
Yeah, so it'll be on the MeatEater YouTube channel, Duck Lore, Lore.
Okay.
Give it a watch. You'll get to watch us hunt with Matt Chouinard from Delta in North Dakota. A bunch of other places.
We're going to get little tidbits, though, of what you're doing.
What do you mean?
Like if they want to follow along, get some ideas of what's happening.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, go on. There will be all sorts of little videos and articles kind of popping up on themeateater.com. Check out me on Instagram, Sean Weaver, DWC. And, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I can't wait. How many episodes a season? Any idea there?
Yeah, we're doing 6 episodes.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I personally can't wait, to see what your guys' take is on waterfowl hunting. Like I said, I've enjoyed, the MeatEater product, the MeatEater perspective. It's, to be honest with you, it's a perspective that I can identify with. And if I'm one of those people, it's just me, if I can't identify with it, I just not that interested in it. And
there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go find what you like for sure.
Yeah. I had this horse that I trained it and things just started going downhill, and he became a danger to anybody around him. And I had so much pride wrapped into that. And a friend of mine pulled me aside and he says, Joel, there's so many good horses out there in this world to spend your time with that one. And so lots of shows out there, and we all only have so much time.
That's
look forward to this one. I do. Cal, you gave a way to reach out to you. Sean, you did as well. Do you have an email address? Do you welcome?
For now, I guess just send stuff to it's the MeatEater at themeateater.com, right? That's kind of the everyone contact channel. So
Got it.
If you have some aching waterfowl question that you need answered too, you can always shoot me an email at the askcal@themeateater.com, and I'll make sure Sean answers it on the podcast.
He'll ghostwrite it for you.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Hey, and then obviously if anybody has, if something simpler, this podcast, Delta's podcast, has a email address, podcast@deltawaterfowl.org. I can send those questions out to these guys, answer them myself, whatever it takes. So, hey, I appreciate this. I really can't thank you guys enough. I've enjoyed it. And I wish you guys a dry and successful hunt in the morning.
Looking forward to being drier.
Man, you might get shot around here if you're wishing for dry weather.
You might. It's okay. It's okay. When you're gone, we can turn the faucets back on.
There we go.
All right. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. You guys take it easy.
Thanks.